This series of technical seminar-style videos dives deep into the world of ice fishing, uncovering detailed patterns and hidden techniques with the ultimate goal of helping you catch more and bigger fish this ice fishing season. Welcome to Expose the Ice, presented by Clam Outdoors and Onyx Fish. Welcome back to another episode of Expose the Ice. This is presented by Clam Outdoors and Onyx Fish. All right, so diving into this one, we're doing a little bit of identifying winter structure for crappies. Get a lot of questions all year long about, oh, my lake looks like this. What would you do? How would you go about this? We're going to try to cover all types of structure in this video and just give you an idea of a visual representation of what they look like on the One Boat Network app and how we would attack this. But we can't talk about structure without first talking about water clarity.
Yes. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Onyx Fish. And so Onyx Fish has a great feature, and whenever you click on a lake, almost immediately on the screen is your water clarity. And that, as we know, is really going to tell us where to start and what to kind of look for. So, for example, let's click on this one right here. Let's go to Lake Carlos. So a whole lake highlights up. Right there in the bottom right corner is going to be your average water clarity on the lake, 17.9. That is clear.
They are deep and they eat at night.
Yeah, pretty much that, or you're gonna have to start looking in the weeds or something.
Exactly.
A lake that clear can be, obviously tough to fish. Your cloudy days are probably gonna be your best days.
Mm-hmm.
For another example, let's go. This one looks like it'd be a dirtier one. Yep, this one's at 6.5 water clarity, so definitely a lot dirtier. You're probably going to have a lot less weeds. You're going to be doing a lot of basin chasing, looking for inside turns and stuff. So this feature is huge. I mean, this really allows us to narrow down at least how we're going to break down a lake before we even get there.
Yeah, exactly. And now we're going to dive into just different types of, winter crappie habitat. And by that, what we mean is we're going to dive into inside turns, weed flats, brush piles, and then trenches and troughs. First, Waldo and I are going to lead this off with a little bit of inside turn talk. So if you want to bring up the one that has, what about the one that has stuff everywhere?
Oh, yeah, we can go to that one.
Yeah, let's start with that.
Yeah, we'll start at this one. Boom.
Okay, so first off, you're going to see something like this. I mean, this is Lake Minnetonka, very prevalent area of the lake, and it also has an abundant amount of structure. This can be very, very, very overwhelming.
Yes.
Well, Waldo, you want to show people on here, like, what are, generally speaking, when we say inside turns, what are we pointing to?
Yep, so inside turns are literally where your contours make a turn, and inside that is where you're going to be wanting to fish. It's an inside turn, so outside turns are points. We don't call them outside turns at all. It's just a point. But an inside turn is usually to the left and to the right side of the point. You're going to have right here a very gradual inside turn. The end of a basin is a gradual inside turn. What we really like to focus on are inside turns that have a little bench or a shelf on it, a little area for them to feed and rest and relax. So this inside turn right here, you've got deeper water access. It's a very flat inside turn. We'd probably set up shop right on the middle of that and start scoping around for fish. There's a lot of different types of inside turns. You've got gradual ones, ones with flat, and then super steep ones. Usually our favorite are either going to be like the super steep ones where it's like a wall where they can push bait up against, or the ones that have a flat or a bench to them that they can kind of set up shop on and just chill out on, really.
You want to go to the next image. So with these inside turns, everything can be extremely intimidating. This one is not nearly as intimidating. So this one actually has a little bit of all the types of structure we're going to talk about in this video. And what's especially nice is with having all these types of structure in a close proximity, it gives you a much better chance of crappies being somewhere in this area. So because of this, like we said before, if I step around you, Waldo, we got inside turns about here. You come over here, you got another inside turn, and you got more gradual of an inside turn like Waldo was talking about. Now we're looking at different shelves and feeding areas. But inside turns are a great place to get started, and especially if you get into a featureless lake, really.
Yeah.
That's just kind of a bowl. You can probably get to one of the inside turns or somewhere near it, and there's probably going to be fish somewhere by.
Yeah.
But next, weed flats, and that's going to be pink and griff.
All right, so we're gonna dive into weed flats now. And Waldo pulled this one up here from the One Boat Network. And this one's kind of cool here because it's, you know, you got your big weed flat here, your 9 to shoreline kind of deal here, but then you got little tips, got your little points on here, a little bit of a trough. I'm guessing there's probably gonna be a weed line on there. So a lot of times these fish will relate to these troughs. And then they will slowly pull out and go up into these key areas inside the actual weed flat. With this One Boat Network having the 1 foot contours, you can really see, and with the shading, you can really see where these little tips, turns, little troughs are on these weed flats, which will really help you dial in the areas that the fish are gonna actually want to be on.
Yeah, and these weed flats can be pretty expansive. I mean, it's hard to get a feel for really how big of an area this actually is, but within a weed flat, there's going to be like nuanced things that are holding the majority of the fish. Like Griff was talking about these little points and turns and things like that, but there can also be things like depressions within the weed flat itself that might be 1 or 2 feet deeper than the rest of it,
Yep.
or high spots within there, bottom composition changes where it might be hard or goes to mud, you know, right on the edge of one of those things. But sand holes within the weed flat can also be something that are really, really key things to find, which are difficult to find during ice. But if you did some scouting before things started to freeze up, you might be able to lay some waypoints on where these sand spots are within the weed flat.
Using your Lake Master chip and laying down those spots, and then going back once you get ice and checking them out and seeing if they're producing fish.
I like that. Pinner minner. It's there. It's in there. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Stud.
That's 14, 15.
No.
Hey, bring the board.
13 maybe.
It's just they're so big.
Yeah.
Oh, look at them out. Full transistor for. Easy.
It's another good one.
How big that crappie is.
Come on.
Yeah.
You get him? Yeah. Now we're talking. Boom. Another stud right there. 12 incher.
Here, do that one.
Talk about this guy.
Yeah. Here, you want to drop down this hole in? Because they're still right there. All right, just moved over here, caught this awesome 13 and a half, just skyscraper brick. Look at how thick that thing is. I'm entering it for our tournament right now. I just got to get the release video. And recording right now. Let this big girl go. See ya.
All right, weed flats are done. Now we're talking brush piles and trees. A lot of times this tends to happen too, either in backwaters, or if you live in Wisconsin, you guys have the blessed opportunity of having cribs. We don't have that in Minnesota, really. Got a couple lakes, but not much. However, we do have a lot of natural cover, so you can have full-blown trees and various things like that that show up. We often run into this in the backwater. So, Waldo, not all brush piles or cribs are created equal, but how are you going to approach it?
Yeah, and that, you know, that's one of the things with brush piles in general is you don't know if they're going to be equal without fishing them, really. They all look great on imaging, on sonar, but whether the fish are actually utilizing it or not, you have to fish it to find out. So the easiest way to, you know, first approach a brush pile, everyone thinks, well, you just want to drill right on top of it and just fish that hole. Not always. Brush piles can be a lot more intricate than just that. Sometimes the best looking side of a brush pile is the side that the fish aren't actually holding on. They're holding on the, you know, the featureless side of the brush pile, or the trunk side of a tree, or So drilling holes around the entire perimeter, not just on top of the brush pile, are really key, because sometimes they'll use one side or another, or if it is like a backwater style, it could be the way that the current's hitting it. There's a lot of different things to it that, you know, the fish might be using that you might not be thinking about. So drill holes around the perimeter is going to be a big one.
So after you drill all the holes around the brush piles, the biggest thing is finding a sweet spot. Like Waldo said, you will run into one of the holes that are going to be the best.
Yeah.
And that's just plain and simple how it is. Another thing you really want to remember when you're brush pile fishing or cribs or anything like that, these fish are oriented to a piece of structure. They aren't necessarily actively feeding there. They're resting there. They're hanging out there, or they're moving through and using it as a place to chill. So when you punch holes on top of it, we talk about noise all the time and how big of a deal it is. When you punch holes on top of it, you're going to blow the brush pile out or the crib out. That's just what's going to happen. So generally speaking, give it a little bit of time. Give it 5 or 10 minutes or something like that before you go back and fish it, to allow it to reset up, because you could just have pushed all the fish away from it, drop the bait down there, not see anything for a few minutes and be like, oh, it's no good. But actually it is good. You just blew it all out.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you want a good video example of us fishing some trees and brush, season 4, episode 8, we got a Welcome to the Backwaters film that we put out last year, where we're catching a lot of fish out of, and we say brush pile. That one was like literally a stick.
Yeah.
It was like a tree limb that's very small, maybe the size of this table.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't matter if it's a stick or if it's a full-blown tree. It'll hold fish. It's a stopping point of some sort.
Hey, get bigger.
Get up here. God, they're thick. They are getting bigger. It's a nice one. Weird. Hey Bart, got another one.
Get bigger.
Nope. Oh, give me a little chance.
Right, bad enough. You want to get a drop kick.
I can feel those little heart beating.
Time's over.
Typical Bart don't catch nothing. Just kidding, Bart. Love you.
What'd you say?
Nothing?
All right. Griff's been kicking my butt all morning on a white drop kick. I'm done. It's a drop XL with a white Mackie. We're going to work now. That didn't take long. All right. As I always tell people, when you're fishing with someone who's much better than you and they're catching more fish than you, just put on what they have. It's the smart decision. Immediately dropped on with a drop XL and a white Mackie. He's a baby, but he's a start. Exactly. All right, and now lastly, onto trenches and troughs.
Another type of structure that we like to target are things we like to call trenches and troughs. So if we're looking at this map right here on the One Boat Network app, we're looking for places off of the main structure of the lake. You know, in this particular example, we're looking at kind of these channel areas and neck downs as they come into these channels. The thing with these is that they're going to be pass-through areas for fish. So we're going to drill them out. We're going to be looking around, especially at kind of these throat areas of where these channels become really solidified in there. And the nice thing about those type of areas, if you're finding fish, they're likely not going to stop. But when you do find them, there's going to be more fish coming. So you're kind of setting up on the pipeline, if you will.
Right. Yep. The 494, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just one spot I wanted to kind of show is where they meet here would be kind of, because then you got fish coming from both directions, and they might even work back into this. This is kind of a neck down area too. It's an inside turn, but it's also necking down into, into that back little tiny shallow bay there. So a video to reference if you want to see, we did this exact same thing. We followed a trough back in on a big flat. We kind of worked in there. We found a little depression. It was actually about 2 feet deeper than the rest of the area, surrounded by weeds. It was like a little weed circle. And we basically, once we found the fish, we could camp out, and those fish just swam around the circle of weeds and just went to everybody got their chances, and they just kept rotating through there. And that is episode 6, season 4, the skyscrapers of Lakes Country.
No, it's just a gill, solid gill, round. They got some shoulders, not gonna lie though. Thick. Heck yeah. Put her back. Bye.
They are mean. I don't think so. Oh, wow. Holy. Look at that bluegill. That might be a 10. Oh my gosh.
What?
9 3/4. Just stuck this gill. I went and measured it over in Waldo with the bump board. It's a 9 3/4, almost 10. Got her on this is a drop XL, and just like the guys said, the crappies are mixed in. They're all just swimming through the weeds. It's a really big gill, so we're gonna get this one back. You want to release those big bluegills, keep the genetics in the lake. Bluegills are really susceptible to that, so definitely get the big ones back. But just like Griff was catching them on yesterday, red seems to be a really good color up in this part, so put that on. Finally got to put the camera down for a little bit and catch some fish. That was a sick one, and I'm ready to keep catching them. Hopefully get some big crappies now, but this place is sick. Ooh, crappie. Crappie. My first one. Nice. I literally just caught that big gill. Drop back down. Perfect eater crappie. They're so pretty up here, and especially weed fish. They're so dark. Sick fish. Griff reel one in. Hey. Bluegill.
And you can tell they're all like this too. Like they're just orbs and they're solid red. There's no like color differentiation.
Yeah, so these type of things, this map is really like exaggerated version of this. Sometimes
Right.
it can be a little more subtle than that, but really looking on a map for these areas that create small channels, and we're talking areas that are, you know, anywhere from 20 yards wide to, you know, a couple 100 yards wide, depending on the scale of the lake. So like this one would be a great example of somewhere to start looking. They're definitely not always, you know, great producers, but if you find one that the fish are actively passing through, you're going to be able to camp and really beat them down. So I know we just talked about a lot of different types of structure, but these are the kinds of things we're constantly cycling through and talking about on any given day on the ice. So really starting to break that down, establishing when fish might be on these types of things are really key to, you know, having success when you're
Right.
trying to identify key pieces of structure. But that was an awesome, you know, kind of breakdown, I think, of what we do day to day, and hope you got something out of that. And thanks for watching another episode of Explode the Ice.